our world is moving so fast. And so standard curricula at best prepare students for today.
Mm.
Most often they prepare students for yesterday. But in very few cases do they prepare them for the world that they're going to enter. I would love to see an education system that we reverse engineer to produce the Africa that we want. And so that means an education system that equips young people with the knowledge, as I've said before, the mindset and the skill set to achieve the common vision that we have defined for ourselves in Agenda 2063.
Erinn, thank you so much for joining us at Voices of a Continent. Erinn Ofori is our guest today. As you've just heard, she has so many strings to her bow, and even getting her here was interesting because we spoke not so long ago, but we haven't seen each other for years. And so it was good to see you in the flesh, give you a squeeze.
So good to see you.
Yes, and I'm really excited about what we're going to speak about because, again, it's something that is growing in Ghana with regards to homeschooling. But I know there's a bit of context behind that before we go into all things homeschooling in Ghana, which is for some quite revolutionary, right? But I'm really excited to have you here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really good to see you again and good to be with you. And
Amazing.
Congratulations on the podcast and its
Thank
success.
you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you. We've had to pivot. It's been an interesting year. So
Yeah.
we've had to pivot. But yes, we believe that amazing things are going to come from showcasing and hearing from amazing personalities like yourself on the continent doing
It's
amazing
time.
things.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So should we crack on?
Sure.
Okay, great. So you've been in Ghana for nearly 20 years, Erinn. I can't believe it. How has your journey here reshaped your sense of self and belonging?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been such a journey. You know, coming to Ghana will introduce you to parts of yourself that you may not ever meet. You know, I may not have never ever met certain sides of myself had I stayed in the country that I was born in. So, and that journey is not a pretty easy one, but it's a blessing. It's worth it. I've just grown in so many ways. Yeah.
I think because you're an educator and you're an amazing mother to three amazing humans, has that really changed how you've morphed into a different person whilst you've been
Absolutely.
living on the continent?
Absolutely. The sort of the significance of how our children are educated, you know, kind of came to light to me in a way that it hadn't, even though I had always valued education and valued African-centered education for African and African diaspora peoples. But when you become a mother, you know, it just kicks something else in, and it made me protective of their mindset in a way that surprised me. And that sense of protectiveness and wanting to protect the mindset of young people, I feel that strongly for all of our children. And I think it's so important. So that was a surprising element of education and motherhood.
Yeah. No, I think I'd have to agree because my son, my eldest, he's been to a few schools, you know, and so sometimes I feel bad, like, gosh, Fiona, you're taking him out of this school and he's going to that one and he's going to this one. But it's like you really have to be intentional with regards to
Yeah.
the spaces that they're in
Yeah.
physically,
Yeah.
the type of education that they're consuming,
Yeah.
how it's being taught,
Yeah.
so it's not just about the institution,
Yeah.
right? It's not just about the bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with
And
you.
the subconscious learning that happens, the way that they're socialized to take on certain attitudes or beliefs or dispositions, particularly as it relates to people like themselves and from where they're from. Like, I think that that is something that we don't pay as much attention to as we should.
I can imagine, with regards to that being in being in an education institution for, kids, I can kind of see how they may even lose themselves if they may not actually been born and raised in that environment. Is that something that you've come across at all?
Well, for my children, it wasn't so much a matter of losing themselves because they've lived in Ghana their whole lives, but they're raised by an African American mother. So they're sort of a third culture. They're kind of like not fully African American and not fully Ghanaian either. They're somewhere in between, which is, I think, a beautiful thing because I can be deliberate about picking and choosing the best aspects of both cultures and sort of raising them with those values and those cultural experiences and traditions and things like that. So I found that to be really rewarding in that sense. But not that they lose themselves. Sometimes there was unearned privilege, and I didn't like that, because I
Okay,
don't like that narrative of like, the more foreign you are, the better.
right.
And so I didn't want my children internalizing that. And so I, I didn't condone it and I would often say something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my children are not me brony,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know.
Indeed.
My son is Odami, Inshira, and Elijah. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I think, yeah, I think it's quite a subconscious thing that people do to not other you, but um, kind of put a bit more of a cotton wool around people or young people, that may not necessarily have consumed all things Ghanaian from both parents in the household.
yeah,
So when you say that foreignness or that abroniness,
yeah.
I think it's very subconscious,
Yeah. And
you
I mean,
know.
I think, the best of it stems from Ghanaian
Yes, it's
hospitality.
coming from a good
Yeah, it's
place.
coming from a
Yes.
good
Yep.
place.
Yep.
But at times there could be colorism.
Yeah. Mm,
And
mm.
so, yeah. And I also don't want to raise spoiled children. So I don't want anybody to overly pamper my kids
Yes, I
because
know.
it's a hard world and they need to be
Exactly.
tough.
Somebody's going to tell them,
Yes.
and I'd rather it be me than the harsh
Right.
world,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
look, this is how things are. And, and I'd rather all the ruckus comes within the household, but then you're making sure that, there's structure and,
Yeah.
things that are being
And
put in place.
accountability and
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so with regards to education and homeschooling,
yeah.
because I know homeschooling is a bit of a grey spot-ish in
Mhm,
Ghana, but we'll talk about that a little bit more
mhm,
in detail. But
yeah.
what does an African-centered education really mean to you?
Oh, that's so good.
And how does it differ
Yeah.
from the Eurocentric approaches that we are used to?
Yeah. So basically, for me, an African centered education is about education that is about the African context
Mm-hmm,
from an African perspective,
mm-hmm.
um, designed for solving African problems and equipping African students to lead Africa's future.
Say that last one again.
Equipping African students to lead Africa's future. So, in a
Yeah.
nutshell, that's African centered education. So,
And how close or how far do you think we are from that?
yeah, I think we are pretty far from that because, we've kind of inherited an educational system that we've tweaked, but we've not really confronted the fact that it was an education system designed for colonialism. And so education is not neutral. It's never neutral. It always comes from a perspective and it has a certain outcome in mind.
Right.
And I think that possibly because there are so many things that we have to do that we haven't taken the time to
Yes,
deconstruct
exactly. And
and
pull
then
it apart.
reconstruct for purpose. You know, our education system is largely not fit for purpose. So you hear the business community complaining that you have graduates who are coming out of school and they don't have the skills that industry in Africa needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Possibly because they've been skilled with, they've been given skills that industry abroad needs.
But not actually adapted to the needs and the requirements of those that are in the continent.
Yeah. So I think we are not very close, but I think that we are becoming more aware. And this is where, you know, I hope to contribute by producing curriculum products that are African centered, that are fit for being deliberate about equipping our students with the skills, with the knowledge, and with the mindset that's needed for achieving the Africa we want, as the AU puts it.
So, with regards to the curriculum that you're developing, or have you developed them? Is this a work in progress?
It's a work in progress.
Very good.
I write my children's curriculum.
And how old are your children?
My children are, my eldest is 15 today. My middle child, my daughter, is 13, and my youngest is 11. But
Okay.
we've been homeschooling for the past 5 years. So my youngest was 5
Oh, wow.
when we started.
So that was COVID era.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Such a blessing in disguise.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah. It really was. It was so pivotal for
Yeah.
our family.
Yeah, I have to agree. That's
Yeah.
where we actually found out that Fee has a talent with the piano.
Yes, I remember.
You know,
I
like,
remember watching.
honestly, it was there that it was birthed.
Yeah.
It was there that we had switched schools. It was there that we as a family, or my husband and I, really took an interest in what was going on in the classroom.
Yes.
Looking at the books, looking at how things are being taught, because of course, to be fair, Ghana did well with regards to like online teaching comparatively to other countries.
Yes, true.
So we were able
Or
to.
Accra did well.
Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll digress on that actually. And so we were able to see, even though it was, you know, a difficult time, you know, to learn, but we were able to see all the other kids, you know, who were the loud ones, who were the passive ones, who were, do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You were able
And
to see the
how the-
dynamic and how the
how the
teacher,
teachers
thank you. And
address them.
that
Yes.
was very telling.
That was very
Yeah,
eye-opening.
it
And that
was.
was when I made the decision, like, you know what? They're taking chances with my children.
Yeah.
I think I'll bet on myself.
Yeah,
to
at the
take
time
those
I only had one.
chances.
I'm like, I've only got one chance here.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So I saw that as well. And it was very disturbing for me. I was already growing a bit restless and a bit dissatisfied. And I tried all sorts of alternatives because homeschooling was never my intention.
Right.
You
Because it's a
know?
lot of work, Erinn.
It's a lot of work. And I mean, I was trained to teach young adults. Like I was a
Right.
university level instructor.
Was this at
This was at Ashesi.
This was Ashesi, okay.
And before that, in the
Yes,
US,
yes.
you know, I had taught at UC Berkeley and community colleges in the Bay Area.
Right,
So
right.
yeah,
So
it
you were
was
used to grown folk.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very different ball game, isn't it, with
very
kids?
different, very different. But then I learned not so much.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I think
learned
for a
not
lot of
so
parents,
much.
it's quite intimidating having your kids at home, you know, trying to put in structure.
Yeah.
If you have more than one, it's just like, okay, how do I, you know, differentiate, or, you know, like I'm doing preschool. Okay, preschool maybe, but like, you know, you're doing, you know, year 1, 2, 3, and then you've got to kid in year 7 and then a kid in year, like
Yeah,
that. It's a lot to, as the parent, to really, that's
absolutely.
what it's perceived
Yeah.
for me that way anyway.
Yeah. So I was definitely intimidated at the beginning, but I was also very motivated,
Wow.
and I'm a little bit risk averse. And
Mm-hmm.
since they were out of school, it was like a risk-free
Got it.
trial,
Got it. Got it.
so
Got it.
I gave it my best.
Okay.
And then when it was time to go back to school, I was kind of like
I
surprised
got
at
this.
how well, not quite I got this, but like I see myself getting better at this, and I
Wow.
have some more ideas. And children, do you guys like what we're doing, or do you want to go back to school?
That's the question.
And I ask them that every single term. I'm
Okay.
like, we don't have to
Okay.
homeschool
Okay.
because mommy wants to homeschool. How do you
Right.
feel about homeschooling?
Right.
And they would say things like, Mommy, we feel like we're learning more homeschooling because we can focus, we get one on one time, we can follow our curiosity. Like, my eldest son is, he's really a thinker. All of my kids are.
Okay.
But he would get in trouble a lot because if he was in math class, he would try to connect a math concept to science
Okay.
or connect it to language arts or something, or
Okay.
social studies, and he would get in trouble for being off track or off
Oh,
topic. This
wow.
is not science class.
Right.
But
Right.
that was genuine thinking,
Right, right, right. Yeah,
and
I mean,
it
because with even with music, like it relates to maths,
yes,
so it's like, okay, in arts, the history,
right,
so it's like that's the reason
right,
why we learn, because you
right.
want to be able to
And we're preparing
piece these
children
kids
for
together.
life. After
Yeah,
you leave school, there's no more
that's it.
classrooms that we're only talking about this subject. No, they overlap. They have to relate to
Absolutely.
each other and be in
Absolutely.
conversation with each other.
Mm,
And our ability to make those kinds of mental pivots,
mm,
it leads to us solving problems,
yeah, absolutely.
and
Yes,
leads
yes.
to innovation,
Yeah,
leads to
yeah. Thinking out the
creativity.
box.
Absolutely. So they enjoyed that. And they also said that, when we're in class with our friends, we don't get to socialize. So we prefer that when we're learning.
Hmm.
And then when we're with our friends,
Then they really
there's no
socialize.
expectation for us to be quiet or sit down, or, so
Great.
they focus when it's time to focus, and they play
Yeah.
when it's time to play.
Yeah.
And they love it. And the time that they got to spend with me, with their dad working from home,
Okay.
like that has been,
Invaluable.
oh, the most priceless thing.
Yeah.
You really get to know your children in a different way,
Hmm.
in a deeper way.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
And to be able to tailor their education to their interests or to things that are happening in our lives in real time,
Yeah.
to be able to pause the curriculum and like go on these rabbit trails to explore something, follow their curiosity.
Hmm.
Learning is so much deeper.
And I must admit, there are, you know, with regards to that homeschooling, there's a WhatsApp group that we know
Yes,
of,
yes.
and it's really interesting to see how creative a lot of the parents are
Yeah,
on that homeschooling WhatsApp group
yeah.
with regards to finding different things to do. I'm
Yes.
going to be at the 37 barracks doing horse riding.
Right, right,
I've got 20 spaces available from 9 till 12. Come,
right.
and and the way that people are really drawn to finding different experiences for their kids
Yeah,
whilst giving them a curriculum,
yeah,
whether it be at home or whether it's adapting it to their school learning.
yeah,
That really does impress me, that now people are really being a lot more open with regards to different activities and things that our children can do,
yeah.
which has been quite enlightening.
Because learning happens all the time and
Yes.
everywhere,
Yes. Yeah.
and so I think that one thing that homeschoolers like begin to adjust to is making everything a learning experience,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so even going to the supermarket.
Absolutely.
I'm teaching my daughter about like comparing prices
Yep.
and
Yep.
value for money.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now her job starting this term Her job is to do the shopping for the house for the month.
Look at that. How old is she?
She's 13,
Look at
you
that.
know, but and we've started that with all of them. You know, it
Great.
started with our oldest. He was responsible for buying our dispenser water. And if we run out of water,
It's
it's
on
his
him.
fault. It happens once and it never happens again. So that sense of
That
responsibility
responsibility.
that you're making a contribution. So
Yes.
he takes care of our electricity bill. And you know, if the lights go out, like everybody's going to be unhappy with you.
Right.
So he doesn't allow that to happen.
Wow.
Our youngest now has the water responsibility. Our middle one, she deals
I
with the
like that.
internet and has to do the troubleshooting when the internet, and so she's on the phone, you know, talking.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that can't happen when children are a 6-year-old is only with 6-year-olds all the time.
No. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
I agree. I agree. It's interesting. Oh my gosh. I think the dots are really starting to connect because my eldest, who's 10, he's like 10 going on 22. You
yes.
know, very yeah, Mom, yeah, and all that. But it's that maturity. Sometimes I do get a bit worried because he's mature in the sense that people forget he's 10,
Yeah.
you know, and then you also don't want people taking advantage
Yeah.
of that because of course he's not fully formed.
And he
He's
probably doesn't
growing.
relate with other 10-year-olds so much because
Unfortunately
of
not.
because of the
Yeah,
things that you've exposed him to, the
exactly.
responsibilities you've given him.
Exactly, you
Yeah.
know. So I don't know, you know, so I do walk on tenterhooks a little bit, but because of, you know, maybe what we do as a family and
Yeah.
where we've exposed him to,
Yeah.
you know, he's gotten these skills, as you said, that
Yeah.
with your children, that okay, they know how to speak to adults on the phone, you know, trying to troubleshoot
Yeah.
what's happening with the internet.
Yeah.
Anything internet
And
related.
applying pressure when necessary. With
Yes.
all due respect,
Yes,
we've
yes.
paid the bill, so we need the service. I love it. I
Oh
love
my
it.
gosh. So interestingly, so what are your thoughts with regards to homeschooling in Ghana?
Yeah.
Because I know it's a gray area,
Yeah.
and it's still considered as unusual,
Yeah.
because, you know, Ghanaians, I think, globally are known to be quite learned and
Yeah.
scholarly, and, you
Yeah.
know, they've gone to all these Infantsipims and
Yeah.
Prempeh colleges. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very, you know, highbrow
Yeah.
with regards to education. And so, what reflection do you have on raising children outside of the mainstream school system? Yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, not only in Ghana, but
yeah.
I think that, you know, standard education systems are, you know, really rigid and
Mm,
unable to pivot and adapt quickly.
mm, mm.
So, you know, by the time you peer review a textbook and publish it, it's almost
True.
not quite obsolete, but it's not
Time
cutting
has,
edge, depending
yes,
on what the topic is,
sure,
right?
sure.
Math is probably the safest,
True,
you know.
true.
And so what I find is that our world is moving so fast. And so standard curricula at best prepare students for today.
Mm.
Most often they prepare students for yesterday, but in very few cases do they prepare them for the world that they're going to enter.
And we don't even know that world because it keeps changing so
Exactly,
quickly.
exactly.
Mm,
Um, so that's one reflection. And
mm,
so one thing about homeschooling is that you can adapt, you know, you can adjust. You
hmm.
know, AI has just like kind of hit the scene in the past 2 or 3 years. And so talking to the kids, although I don't, you know, have them actively using AI,
Yeah,
they are definitely aware of how AI is using them, you
right,
know, how algorithms work,
right,
how,
right, right.
you know, how to fact check and identify misinformation, disinformation, not believing everything that you see,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
but seeing how believable it looks,
mm-hmm,
you know,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
it's a kind of safety that our children, like safety training that our children need. I think the biggest dangers to our kids is not being kidnapped,
Yeah.
Like when we were growing up,
Yes.
our parents were
True.
so worried about
True.
that, or someone giving you candy laced with,
Yes. All
something in
sorts.
it.
Yes.
But
That's so
now the
true.
danger is online and how their minds can be manipulated, how their self perceptions can be manipulated, how they can become radicalized, how they can become sexualized and lured into addictions, not only addictions to the devices,
Yeah.
but our boys are struggling with addictions to pornography. And
Mm.
that has potential to like ruin lives,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Families, relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to my reflections, and then the other one, which I think in Africa, we really just have to confront the fact that we've inherited a colonial education system.
Mhm.
And what was it designed to do? It was designed to make it easier for us to be colonized by a minority group,
Mm,
you know?
mm, mm.
So the way that that has shaped our mindsets, our self-perceptions, we really have to be intentional about reversing that.
So, would you say that the WASI curriculum is a safe curriculum for our students, our African students to study, or not?
Um, Respectfully,
Hey,
no.
Erin, really?
Yeah, respectfully, no. So in the textbooks that prepare you for the WASI, let me say this first. The education system that we have in Ghana is very good in math,
Mm-hmm.
much better than the US. Okay.
Mm, mm.
And I think theoretically is very good in science as well.
Okay,
So we should
okay,
applaud ourselves for
okay.
that.
Good to know.
But in terms of safety, and math and science are pretty objective,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
In terms of safety, where our children are most in danger is as it relates to social studies and history. Okay. So,
Okay,
for example, you will find a couple of things that were kind of deal breakers for me
okay.
when my children were beginning to learn about Ghanaian history and things like that. In terms of culture, I believe that we speak for ourselves,
Yep,
so explaining festivals
yep,
and naming
yep,
ceremonies,
yep,
that
yep,
comes from an African perspective, that
yep,
comes from the perspective of the ethnic group.
yep. And it's a lived experience as well.
Yes,
Mm-hmm,
yes. So that is fine.
mm-hmm.
But when it comes to history, it is a danger when our textbooks use loaded phrases like our colonial masters. That's
Mm.
psychologically
That
violent to our
right,
children. Now, I'm not saying that we have to like make up a lie to ourselves and say that colonialism didn't happen,
right.
but colonial administrators, the British colonizers, even though that sounds pejorative, so maybe we don't have to say that,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but our colonial masters, and we say it without thinking.
Right. Just falls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's life and death in the power of
The
the
tongue.
tongue. Okay, so we have to be very careful about that. Another thing that is striking in the history curriculum is that our students are asked to write long form responses or essays on the question of name 5 benefits of colonialism. Now, that is a
Benefits.
Eurocentric perspective.
Absolutely, it is. Benefits.
Benefits, name 5. Name 2 downsides of colonialism. So, the benefits of colonialism apparently are that the Europeans brought education to Africa, which, hello, we need to
We
understand Sankore University,
ab-
we need to understand Alexandria, that
absolutely,
were that
absolutely.
were learning centers of the world. People
World.
came from all over the world to
Yep.
learn from Africans.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Europeans brought Christianity.
Mm,
I'm sorry,
mm,
the
mm.
Ethiopian eunuch received the gospel before Caesar. So Ethiopia and the Aksum kingdom was a Christian kingdom before Rome was. So therefore, before Europe was.
Right, right.
Yes. So in terms of safety, no, that doesn't make our children's psyches safe. Their identity as Africans is not safe with that kind of narrative. And that
Wow.
is not an African curriculum because it comes from the perspective of those who benefited from colonialism,
Absolutely.
you know? So to find that in a British curriculum, fine, right? Which we pride ourselves on our children being in a British
Yes,
curriculum,
it's true. It
you
is
know?
true.
But
It is true.
what makes it British is that it's designed to produce good British citizens. It's designed to produce students whose interests and affinities are aligned
Benefit
with
exactly
British values, and that is perfect for
for
British
them.
students.
Yeah.
So I'm not like,
Knocking that.
yeah, no.
I get
But
you.
British students deserve that. And so what do Ghanaian students deserve? What do African students broadly deserve? They also deserve a narrative that feels empowering for
Yeah,
them,
and that reflects their own.
that reflects, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
So this then makes sense as to why you have developed your own
yes,
books. Would you say that you're also will be developing a curriculum?
absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit
Absolutely.
more about that? Because now I'm like, I'm in.
Yes,
I'm so in.
yes. So, you know, when I started homeschooling, I kind of deconstructed everything. I was rethinking. And so every time, every lesson, I started off trying to follow what they would have been doing in school.
Right.
But each topic, each subject, I asked myself, why are they learning this and not something else?
Right.
Is this the best thing for them to be learning?
Right.
You know, what knowledge is it going to give them? What broader understanding is it going to give them?
Sure.
And what are they going to be able to do? What
With it.
skills are they going to have as a result? And if I wasn't satisfied with those answers, I would say, what would be better? You know, and I finally got to the question of what is it that society needs?
Because we are part of it.
Well, because schools are factories that produce the citizens who make up society, the mindsets, the skill sets that make up society. So if we think about what society needs by maybe starting with what it is that frustrates us,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
How do
Problems
we
that needs.
reverse engineer for a better outcome? Right? So I kind of got rid of the standard curriculum except for math and science,
Okay.
right? No need to reinvent the wheel.
Right. Right.
But particularly around history, social studies, and language arts, English, um, I started writing my children's curriculum myself, pulling
Wow.
resources, you know, best practices,
Okay.
you know, themes that we're going to discover and skills that we're going to be intentional about developing,
Okay.
mindset that we are going to be intentional about developing, you know. So you can ask my children and they will say, we are Africans, not Africants, you know.
That's so
So we don't have
powerful.
any Afro
Africans.
pessimism. We are Infinite Potential Africa Prep School. That's the name of our
Oh,
school.
really?
Because that's the name of my business. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Africa has infinite potential. Like my children
Indeed.
just kind of take that as
It's a given.
you know. And I am African, so therefore I have infinite potential. And you
Indeed.
are African.
Indeed.
So therefore I believe you also have infinite potential. Right. And so that's how it started. And then, you know, people were coming in, I'm just doing my best for my kids.
Yeah.
That's all I was thinking about.
Yeah.
And then people started coming to our classroom and they're like, wait a minute. So then friends and neighbors are like, can my child like sign up for this
gonna
class?
say, like, you must be opening this up.
So I did for a while.
Okay.
But I'm already teaching 3 kids on 3 different levels. So that became a lot.
I can imagine.
And you know, part of the reason why I stopped working was because I felt like my career was getting the best of me and my children were getting the
Weren't.
leftovers. And I was like,
Good. Good. And I'm sure a lot of parents feel that way.
Absolutely.
They really do.
It's such a
It's hard.
struggle, you know? And so And not everybody can stop and give their
Exactly.
children that
Exactly.
full attention. So I do recognize it's also a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I also see in hindsight that God used it for me to be able to serve those families because not everybody can homeschool.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I asked you before, like, how do you do it? Because
Yeah.
it's very intimidating for
Yeah.
many people, whether they have the time, whether they have the financial resources,
Yeah.
the patience.
Yeah.
Because I think it was during
Yeah.
COVID that I was
Yeah.
just like, you know what, teachers, I
Hats off,
salute you
right?
guys. My husband's a teacher,
Yeah.
and I was watching him like doing online classes and things like that,
Yeah.
back to back to back to back to back. And I'm like, you teachers are something else,
Yeah.
so.
How I do it is, I think, the combination of grace and purpose.
Mm,
Because I'm not like stingy and just want this for my kids. I actually want it. What I've seen in my children, oh, I want this for
for
everybody's
everybody.
children. Oh, and just imagine, and so I am like that dream of seeing what empowered African youth can do excites me. I mean, I'm even getting goosebumps on my legs. It gets
Oh,
me up every single
yeah,
morning.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I really feel like God used this for a bigger purpose, not only for my children,
Yeah,
but for many children. So, I'm excited about that.
I'm excited. I'm like, where do we sign up? Um, so I'm sure a lot of parents would want to know, what is your schedule? Can you give us like a loose schedule on how a day in a life is
Okay.
for a parent who's homeschooling
Okay.
3 kids,
Right.
different stages?
So in the beginning,
Mm.
like I said, I deconstructed everything and I questioned everything.
Mm-hmm.
Why do 10-year-olds need to just learn with 10-year-olds? Like, where
Mm-hmm.
does that show up in real life?
True.
In the workplace?
Nope.
No. In families? No. In churches? No.
So true.
So why do we have to do it this way? And how can we do it differently? So, with the exception of math,
Mm-hmm.
because they were already on a track,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
With the exception of math, we learned together, right? And
Okay.
at that time,
Okay.
my 5-year-old would contribute something that my 10-year-old hadn't thought about because my 5-year-old has a 5-year-old perspective and
Sure.
insight,
Sure. That nobody can match that, right?
Yeah, and then I'm getting their ages mixed up at that time. My 7-year-old or 6-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
who's very creative, who sees patterns, who's very mathematical and scientific.
Mm-hmm.
So she would come with a certain perspective on the same topic. My
Wow.
youngest is very fun. He's very athletic. He's
Okay.
really into fitness and mindset, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
then my oldest is like, for the longest time, he was like Mr. Kwame Nkrumah. Yes. So he is Mr. Pan-Africanist.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, get this. So my eldest is Odami.
Uh-huh.
My middle child is Nile or Inshira,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my last is Elijah. Okay?
Yeah.
O-N-E, right?
Oh.
And so, not intentional.
Was it okay? I was gonna
Not
ask.
intentional.
Okay.
So we were learning about Kwame Nkrumah, and he's like, "Mommy, I think we're in Ghana for a reason, because Kwame Nkrumah wanted to make Africa one, and so, and Daddy, his name is Duke, and so I think with you and Daddy." We are one. Me, Niall, and Elijah, we are one. And with Daddy and you guys can help us get it done.
Oh, don't stop.
And I mean, he was younger, so
Wow.
this is how he's talking
Yes,
as
exactly. You
well.
could just feel the enthusiasm.
Yes.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
he's like, yeah, so like, Kwame Nkrumah is gone, but he was right. He was right about a lot of things. And so it's up to us. It's our job to make Africa one.
What are you feeding these kids? What?
Afrocentric
Oh
education.
my gosh.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes. And it's just an affirmation, a confirmation, like these little whispers that keep me going,
Indeed.
because it is very hard.
Indeed.
It is very hard.
Yes, because
It's
we
not
are
easy.
consumed with, all things international education, whether
Yeah.
it's the, the British,
Yeah.
the IB,
Yeah.
the GCSEs, the A levels. It's
And it's
it's
not a bad thing.
it's not. I'm not
The
saying it is
but
at
the
all.
problem
I've
is
I've
that
consumed it.
it's it's more global than it is local, and it's like international in every way sometimes other than African.
Yes.
And it's like there are 54 nations
Yep.
here.
Yep.
So why does international mean non-African?
What I did find interesting, we had the pleasure of shooting in Rwanda. So we are
Mm,
one of the communication partners for the International Baccalaureate.
okay.
So we shot in Rwanda to cover their IB African Festival.
Okay.
So, what interested me is that I had met a couple, or quite a few people anyway, even though we were shooting and doing something very different. A lot of the participants or the schools that were invited were talking about an Afrocentricized IB.
Yeah.
And that really just lit me up,
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, you could see the future of where, education is going,
Yeah.
but it was very Afrocentric with
Mhm.
regards to, history and the theory and philosophy and,
Yes.
really trying to embed, those Afrocentric
Yeah.
principles.
Yeah.
And that really excited me. And I
Yeah.
don't know whether, I mean, I know there are one or two schools in Ghana that are employing that.
Mhm.
I know there's quite a few IB schools in Ghana.
Yeah.
But that did excite me, knowing that, okay, yes, there is this international global curriculum, but they're realizing now
Yeah.
that
It
you're on the continent.
marginalizes Africa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you really need to infuse what's happening
Yeah.
locally,
Yeah. Where you
So
are needs to be centered
yeah.
in the education.
Yeah. So I asked you about WASI a little earlier with regards to how that's being taught here. What about other international organizations like, with the A levels and GCSEs? Is one able to offer homeschooling to those students who are studying like A levels or GCSEs at all? Do you think?
Yes, you can. You know, the thing about homeschooling is that, like, there are no two homeschools that are the same,
Okay.
right? And so some will choose to follow the curriculum leading to A levels and take those exams. Some do not. I mean, there's so many different ways of homeschooling. There's even something called unschooling,
Okay.
where it's really more about like learning in life. So a lot of times you see like people living on farms are unschooling. They're not sitting at desks writing papers and things like that. They're learning how to, preserve apples or
Right.
run a family business, something like that.
Right.
There's deschooling where, you don't follow the traditional schedule and you may not follow the same curriculum. So to
Mm-hmm.
answer the question, yes, homeschoolers do take those standardized tests if the families choose to.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm being very experimental simply because I think education globally is in a period of transition. So I
It
think
is.
education everywhere is experimental right now.
That's very fair.
So
Yep.
I feel safer about doing something a bit different. And again, I question everything. So and I don't down anyone who is following the traditional system, but I ask myself, and maybe just the Lord gives me this question for his purpose for my children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
I ask myself, like, what are those exams producing? You know, who is validating our children based on what values?
That one.
And,
Mm.
I see a lot of
Mm.
brain drain. So if you're taking the A levels or the ICGSEs,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably because you're not intending on
To
staying
staying.
here. And so I have a philosophical difference. I respect people's choices, but I don't think that that's the way that Africa will be transformed. I think that, when our best and brightest are going out to serve the industries of other nations, it's a loss for us,
Oh, it is a huge loss.
you know?
It is a huge loss. I recall I was at a school. They had a function last week. Oh yeah, I won't get too precise, but they had a function last week that I attended, and the new Ghana ambassador to Korea, was at the event,
Okay.
and he attended
Yeah.
a school in Tema.
Kojo Choi, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And he narrated a really interesting story. It was a really cool panel of people from SOS, and he said that he had the opportunity to go
Yeah.
to far
Anywhere.
lands,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and his family were very intent on him staying in Ghana
Oh,
to make
wow.
sure that, look, yes, you can go here, you can go here, you can go here, you can go here,
Uh-huh.
but I want you to stay in Ghana. So he went to Legon,
Uh-huh.
and there are many other students from that institution who do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because again, a lot of people are talking about him.
Uh-huh.
I was touched to hear that,
Yeah.
people are like, well, how come you're not going to go to the US? How come you're not going to go to Europe?
I really
And he was
respect that.
very intent. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm staying here. So he went to Legon, stayed here, did a number of businesses and and earned his stripes, to be
Yeah.
fair. I mean, I
Yeah.
know there's been a lot of discussions on, his legitimacy and things like that, but
Right.
like, he loves Ghana.
You
And he
know,
wants to make sure that he serves the nation in any way that he can,
Yeah.
and because of that,
Yeah.
he's fully in. But
Yeah.
that was because he stayed,
Right.
you know.
And that question about legitimacy,
Yeah,
I have a new take on that. Well, not so new, but it's really not about origin, it's about mindset.
indeed.
If you are for Africa, you
Yeah,
should be here.
yeah,
If you are not for Africa, feel free.
yeah,
Feel free, go wherever you
yep,
like,
yep,
because we need people who believe in Africa, who love Africans, not just Africa as
yeah,
an object.
yeah.
We need people who believe in the future and the potential and who are willing to roll
Put
up
in the
their
work.
sleeves and do the work.
Now that takes me to there being a lot of videos and things online about some African Americans who
Yeah.
have been here
Yeah.
for however many years, and they're now deciding to pick up their bags and leave,
Yeah.
which makes me sad, because there was such a excitement, about I'm coming back to the motherland and I'm here. And what is your take on the fact that they were here and now they're like, you know what, I'm so done
Yeah.
with the continent or Ghana. That's what I'm seeing
Right.
anyway at the moment.
Well, I think it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And, I think most things are for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And so some should really just come as tourists and then go back and share what they
Enjoy the
experience.
dirty December, right?
Some are meant to come here and have their mindset shifted and challenged and their foundation shaken.
Yes, yes.
And maybe it's best for them to go back and see what they can accomplish with that.
With a different mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for others, I was saying to you earlier, like, if Ghana didn't call you here, you won't be able to last. Like,
100%.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think some people may misinterpret that calling for a visit, an eye-opening
Yes.
versus
Yes.
a lifetime.
Yes.
And then the operating system in Ghana and in, say, the US are not compatible. And so unless you are open-minded enough
Yes.
and resilient enough
Yep.
and
Humble.
humble,
Yeah.
humble, that's a big one.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Humble enough. You can't come here with all the answers. You need to come with some questions, lots of questions.
Yes.
Lots and
Yes,
lots of
exactly.
questions.
Ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're able to make those adjustments, which are not easy,
No,
not easy to make.
It isn't, because I think the longer you're
Yeah.
here, then you actually really get to see the underbelly, right?
Exactly.
So it's not all
But
about what's happening.
you will come undone before you come back together.
Say that
And
again
so you
for
will
those at the
come
back.
undone.
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I think it's stages. Like there's the romantic stage that,
Hmm.
oh, I'm in the motherland. I feel like I'm at home. And,
They
oh, the
look like
people are so
me.
beautiful and everybody looks like me. The billboards look like me. The president looks like me. The homeless person and the wealthy person looks like me, like so much possibility, so much
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
The drumming and the dancing and the crying at Elmina, which is important,
Yes,
and
it is.
healing.
It
I didn't
is.
mean to like,
No, no. Every time I've gone myself, I've wept.
absolutely.
And I've been here for a minute.
you
So
know
yeah.
but
Yeah.
after that comes the mandatory breakdown.
Yeah.
You have to fall apart.
Yeah. You do. You
You
do.
have to
And it's
fall
messy.
apart. It's
It's messy.
messy, it's painful,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
confusing, it's lonely.
It is.
And when you realize, okay, I think this is my motherland, but my mama doesn't know me. These people don't see me as one of
Where's my
them.
mother?
Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I
I'm
mean, I'm
not
not
seen
even.
even as Black,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, we are we
It's
are
very real.
we are branches on the same tree,
Hmm.
but yeah, we are not
No, I know. I mean,
exactly the
I've been here
same.
for many years, and
Yeah.
right now, as we speak, I feel all those things.
Yeah.
Vulnerable.
Hmm.
A tad insecure.
Yeah.
Second guessing myself.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think I'm just going to have to live with that for as long
Yeah.
as I'm here.
Yeah. It's a
I think it's
blessing.
something that, so I'm now really, now, literally, as we speak, I'm now really just trying to flip it,
Yeah.
and just see it as a blessing and
Yeah.
see it as, well, okay, well, Fiona, this is your USP.
Yeah.
This is my
Yeah.
unique selling point, and this is who I am. And I'm not going to, make myself shrink myself in order to make
Right.
everybody feel
Right.
comfortable.
Right.
Right. So,
And I think
yeah.
even for Ghanaians,
Yeah.
like there's definitely for diasporans, but even for Ghanaians, I hear a lot of my friends, basically coming to terms with the ways that they don't fit, the
Yeah.
ways that they're not Ghanaian enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that in a
Yeah.
society that values tradition so much, many
Yes.
people, not just foreigners,
Yeah.
not just diasporans, I
Yeah.
won't say foreigners, not
Yeah.
just diasporans,
Yeah.
feel that sense of like sometimes I feel like I fit and I don't fit. I
At the same
belong and
time.
I don't
Yeah.
belong.
Yeah. I
You
tread
know,
that on a daily
and you
basis.
have to get comfortable with fitting when you do, and
Yeah.
being okay with standing out when you don't fit, because not everything is working the way that it should. So you shouldn't fit in all ways. Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe that's why you're here, to set a new standard, to build on tradition. I don't think our ancestors want us to walk in their shoes. They want us to stand on their shoulders, and too many times, like, this idea about tradition and culture is really very much about walking in the shoes of those who came before us. No, we're
Yes.
supposed to continue the trail
Yeah. Yeah. And
forward
build.
and build on it,
Mm.
and keep the essence, but refine the methods, refine the, you know what I mean? We don't throw away fufu,
No.
but we can pound it in a way that's hygienic.
Yeah.
And that's not an insult to culture.
Do you know, it's so funny though? If somebody gave me fufu and I know that there was a little bit of sweat, that means I'll be like, that's the fufu I want. Because
I was gonna say, people say like it gives it flavor,
telling you.
and it's like,
I'm
okay,
telling
well,
you.
I don't want to risk flavor and cholera at the same time. It
I
could be a
know,
little bit less
I know.
flavorful.
Yes,
How about
I
that?
know, right? I get you. That's so funny.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, it's very interesting that that's not only a diasporan experience,
No,
but
at all.
even Ghanaians feel like they're not Ghanaian
Yeah.
enough,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm starting to feel not just those shoes, but now starting to stand on
Yeah, because it's
shoulders
your
now.
turn. It's
Yes.
your generation's turn to define what it
Yeah.
means to be Ghanaian.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like, we respect the ancestors, but we
Absolutely.
also have to
Absolutely.
decide in our lives and the way we live, what kind of ancestor do we want to be?
Exactly, because we will become
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Yes.
So at some point,
Mm, mm.
you have to take the pen and shape the narrative and tell the world what it means to be Ghanaian,
Yeah,
even our elders, what it means to be Ghanaian in 2025,
yeah,
in a way that still honors them,
of
but also
course.
honors the future.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed that. Thank you. I
Mhm.
really appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to wrap up
Okay.
with a few closing reflections, or maybe like 2 or 3 closing reflections. But if you were to imagine the future of education in Africa in one generation's time,
Yeah.
and it should be rooted in Afrocentric values,
Yeah.
what would you hope to see?
Yeah.
What would you hope to
I love
see?
that question. I would love to see an education system that we reverse engineer
Mm,
to produce the Africa that we want.
mm,
And so that means an education system that equips young people with the knowledge, as I've said
yeah.
before, the mindset and the skill set to achieve the common vision that we have defined for ourselves in Agenda 2063.
Mm,
Now, I know that that shakes things up because how many of us know what Agenda 2063 is? But I think that that's a starting point, because there are 7 aspirations of Agenda 2063. And I think that if we are all collectively working towards the same vision, you're talking about education in the next generation, I think we will see transformation within a generation
mm,
if our education system is all designed to produce the same outcome of a transformed Africa, an empowered Africa, a prosperous Africa, a people-led Africa, a well-governed Africa, an integrated, collaborative Africa,
yeah,
an
collaborative.
Africa that celebrates our diversity as well as our shared heritage and our shared destiny. Like, it's just so rich, so dynamic to picture that, and it's possible. And so I think everything in our education system should point towards that and prepare us for that,
Yeah.
because it's only when we are deliberate
Yeah, that intentional.
about the world that we want to inhabit, that we can accomplish it. So that's what I would really love to see.
I'm blown away because the Agenda 2063, is that an AU agenda?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the African
Okay.
Union's agenda. And I
Okay.
know that there's a lot of criticism about it, as there often is
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
things that belong to us.
Mm, mm.
But the truth of the matter is, it's ours. It's ours to make it work, or it's ours to allow to fail, right?
Very much so.
We worked very hard towards the SDGs,
We did,
and
yeah.
we didn't even write them.
Yeah, I know, but everybody was really
And there's 5 years left,
focused.
and,
Yeah,
but, I was doing the math. In 2063, our children will be in their 50s,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so they will be the leaders, the decision makers,
very much
the
so.
leaders of industry,
Yeah.
of education, of technology, of medicine and science. Um, and so if we start intentionally now,
Now, yeah, yep,
2063 could be something quite phenomenal. We can sort of restore Africa's place in the world.
exactly,
Most of us
exactly.
don't even know that we were global leaders at a certain point,
We
you
were,
know,
we were, we were.
in so many different ways, in education,
Yeah,
in
science.
governance,
Mm-hmm,
in science,
mm-hmm.
in
Yep,
mathematics.
yep.
Um, and I think that's where God intended us to be. And so it's up to us to live up to all the potential that He's placed in us. Look at all
And
the
there is a
resources. Look at
lot of
all the,
potential. There
yeah,
is a lot of
yeah.
potential.
But it's all about narrative and who's telling the story, like the proverb says. Until the lion,
Yes.
learns to tell the story of the hunt,
Yep.
the story will always glorify the hunter.
His perspective.
And so we need to start telling our own story,
Yes. Yes.
not only to the world, but to ourselves
First
and
Yeah.
foremost.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a lot of self-hate.
yes.
And we really do. And whether it's, consciously or unconsciously, a lot of the time unconsciously, which
Yeah,
is,
because it's baked
it's,
into our
yeah, it's been
education. It's baked into our media. It's
and
baked
for a long
into,
time, for a very
yes,
long
the
time.
geopolitics. It's baked into so
Yeah.
many things. And so we have to intentionally pluck those
Unpick.
elements out
Indeed.
and make a new cake.
Indeed. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Finally, what message
Yeah.
would you want to share with parents and educators in Ghana and across Africa and the diaspora about recentering Africa with regards to how we teach our
Yeah.
children?
So, I mean, it's really a repetition of some of the things that I've said already, but we really have to be deliberate
Yeah.
with how we are teaching and training and raising and educating our children. And we have to think about the best desired outcome and then model our education and our parenting to produce that.
Can I just jump in for a second? I
Sure.
think parenting, people really leave parenting on the shelf
Yeah.
when it comes to education.
Yeah.
And it scares me a bit because when I was starting to, during COVID, a lot of us were homeschooling to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
Just making sure that, the kids had their books and all that kind of stuff. And it was really for me then that wake up call with regards to, okay, I need to understand what my boy is doing at school.
Yeah.
Parenting, I think up until then, from my perspective, was left to the educators. And I know, being born and raised in the UK, a lot of parents also, because of time, work, commitments, that rat race and all that, a lot of parenting was put on the shelf for educators or teachers to do.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I've interjected, but when you mentioned parenting, I really just wanted to underscore that because
Yeah.
a lot of people have kind of taken the foot off the accelerator with regards to
Yeah.
parenting,
like
but
a
not really seeing it
autopilot.
linked in with education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that good parenting is almost automatic, but it's like everything. It's a skill and
Yeah,
you have to be very
exactly.
intentional
Exactly. You
about it,
do. You
you
really
know.
do. Because I get it
And
wrong.
yeah, absolutely. We all do.
I
We
get
all
it
do.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, our own upbringing, if we're not, again, intentional about what things mom and dad did that I am going to continue and what things are going to end with me
Right.
is an important decision.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And what things I've learned from my parents that I want to emulate, and what
Yes.
things I've learned from my parents that I
That you want
decided
to.
I'm not going to do that with
Thank
my
you.
kids.
Yeah.
And we really need to. We have to have those reflections, and it's really important because also the other thing that I found, most of the teachers, God bless them, that we leave to parent our children are often not parents themselves. Now, that creates some issues.
Yeah.
That creates some serious issues.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
um,
I've experienced that.
oh, yes.
Before you run away, is there anything that we have forgotten in this interview that you would like to share?
I'm really birthing something that I want to be meaningful.
Great.
So I'm not really approaching this as a business. I'm approaching it more as service and contribution. This is my contribution to Ghana and to Africa. In response to all that Ghana and Africa has given to me, So this is my lane. These are the gifts and the talents that God has given to me.
Amen.
And so
Amen.
I feel a sense of responsibility and delight at being able to share it with my brothers and sisters and the world, because an Afrocentric curriculum is first and foremost for African students.
Yes.
But there's a lot of unlearning that others need to do.
Completely.
We
It's transferable, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
we have sometimes inherited an inferiority complex.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side of that, there are some people who are trapped inside of a superiority complex, and they equally need to be liberated from that.
Yes, they do.
And I don't say, I know it sounds very tongue in cheek, but no, I say that out of like love for humanity,
Sure,
because
sure,
it's hard to
sure.
live up to a lie of being superior.
Yeah.
And in the same way that it's hard to live up when you feel inferior.
True.
So we
True.
all
It goes
need to
both
be
ways.
freed from these mental prisons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's been a
you.
joy.
This has been amazing.
Everybody will be seeing a bit more of Erinn because there are so many strings to her bow. She was or is a hip hop scholar.
Former life.
But
Yes.
but it's for life though, right?
I know.
It's for life.
It's
So
not.
we'll be talking hip hop scholarly stuff on another
Okay.
occasion.
Yeah.
Because I like a bit of Talib Kweli and
Oh, yes.
yes, and Dead
Yes.
Prez
Oh, yes.
and Black Thought and
Oh,
my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that on
Okay.
another occasion. But thank you so much for joining. I've learned so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Through this conversation, I feel that I also need to unpick.
We all do.
With
we all
regards
do.
to how we've been taught, what we've been taught, the importance. Is it of importance with regards to how things are ranked?
Yeah.
With regards to what we've been taught. But yeah, I've learned so much. So thank you so much for joining
you
us
too.
on Voices of a
Thank you.
Continent. Thank you.